The design for any website or app is one of the most important steps before developing it. We all know how hard it can be to change things down the track, and this is why I always like to measure twice and cut once. We've been looking at this series where we've been putting together a website design. We've done the wireframe for it, as well as a small UI prototype. In this video, we're going to be doing the full mockup for this website design. This will involve adding in actual pictures and content and other things to flesh it out. Here are the items we were working on in previous videos. Here we can see the example of the wireframes we've created for a homepage, a features page, and a contact us page, as well as a responsive mobile menu. If we go across here, we can see how in the next video, we actually built out a small UI prototype for this one. Here we've got a bit more of an idea of what the pages will actually look like. We're going to use this as reference and copy this out to create our actual mockup in today's video. This will involve filling out real content, which will mean that we probably need this website to have some sort of a meaning or a real logo with an actual bit of content here. Now, I'm doing my own sort of a website recently. It's called Enhance UI, and it's going to be designed for developers. So I think this will be a perfect example where we can fill out some content and build it around that sort of a brand. The first thing I'd like to be able to do is pull in a logo over here. Right now we just have a placeholder for one. I've actually got a logo ready to go, so I'm just going to drag and drop it right into here, and we're going to make it around the same size here. And this will just fit in nicely there. The other thing I want to be able to do is change the background now. We're working with a much darker shade here, so this gray here probably won't work very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this layer here, and I'm just going to grab the background color of 1E, 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 which is what we're using for this example. I'm also going to grab the title and subtitle here, and I'm going to select both of these to have a white color, because right now they're not very visible. And this gets us started with this section over here. The next thing I'd like to do is add a bit of a background to it. So here we've got a few different options. We could add maybe a background color or a background image. And in this case, I'd like to be able to grab a background image for it. So I've got another image which I've gotten ready here, and I'm just going to drag it in. We're going to move this layer just beneath our rectangle here and place it in here just like this. And this should fit in quite nicely. Now we've got an example of how a background image and some text here can fit in very well for our header section. And all we really need to do is clean up maybe the menu and the title here. So for the title bit, I'd like to write in something like design for developers. And for this, learn how to enhance your website. So there's our title and description. And the only other thing I want to do is maybe throw in an image of a book in here. So in this case, I've got another image ready to go with the book that I'm working on for this website, which is just over here. And it's already got a bit of a box shadow, which we can apply. And as we can see, these elements have fit in quite nicely and give us an example of what this will look like. The only thing left here is this menu. And right now we can't see it very well in this gray sort of a format. So what I might do is double select it here and change the background color to either black or white, depending on what works. Right now it feels like neither of them work, so I might play around with a few different colors. The blue here that we're using for the site does look pretty good, so I might use that blue here with the white for the current item. We might make the text here a black, while the other text items here we might make a white color, and that stands out quite nicely. The only other thing I feel like we're missing is that maybe this logo here is a little bit too big, so I'm going to reduce it down just a tad so it's almost the same size as our menu over here, and that pretty much does our image here. It's okay because we've got this slider section here and we might not be using this, so I could change this to a white color, and we might leave it for the time being. We might have a look at doing other sliders in the future here, but I think that's enough to get us off the ground. The next bit we have here is this About Us section, and we've got a small area here for images. What I might do for this image is just put in a placeholder for the book once more. So in this case, I might do something like grab this design image that I've created as part of the book and place it in here. By doing so, we almost don't have enough room, but what we could do is we could move this image next to the rectangle and mask it. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to select both of them. I'm going to do use mask, and then that fits in quite nicely in there. There we've got an example of one of the pages from the book, and I think that seems to work quite well. The next thing we want to do is for this About Us section, we want to give it a bit better of a title. Since we both have some content here for a main title and a subtitle, what I'm going to do here is just copy in a main title and then add a subtitle which gives a little bit more information for it. Finally, we might also give it a bit of a description, so I'm just going to paste in a bit of content here to get us started with that. We've got this section almost done. The only other thing we might do is make it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to drag down some of these elements here so that we have a bit more room to play around with. So here I'm just going to move this more button down just a tad. And for this section here, I might also highlight some of the prominent areas, like for example my name over here, which I might want to stand out, so I'll also bold that. And otherwise that looks pretty good. Now with that done, we might move this button back up a little bit, and we can also increase this mask a little bit. So for this, I'm going to grab this out and just increase the height here at the top and at the bottom, and now that looks like a full-on page. The only other thing here is that this button is still gray, and it doesn't seem consistent with our overall theme. With this theme, we've got a bit of blacks and whites and blues, so I'm going to keep that consistent throughout the design. So this takes up our slider here and our About Us section, and we can move this sponsored and sitemap section back up. Now, previously we did have a sponsored section over here, and this was more or less for when we were doing sponsors, but in my book here I don't actually have any sponsors. So instead, what I might do is turn this into testimonials. Here I'll also put in a small description, so maybe what other people are saying. And instead of having, say, all these boxes, we might reduce this down to just a couple. So here I'm going to just have maybe one here that spans 4 columns, one here that spans 4 columns, and one here that spans 4 columns. For each one of these, we might put in some text, and we might also change the background color for this. So for the background color, I might do the blue here, just so that it stands out a bit more. And for the text, I might set both of these as white so that they also stand out nicely. We'll also make sure that we center this, because right now is a little bit off center, but that's looking much better. Then for these items here, I'm just going to select them to have a white background, and we can put our testimonial quotes inside of there. We're still aligning to our column design here, but we're just repurposing the content based on what we're going to put in here. I've got a few different bits of testimonials that I'd like to put in, so let's actually grab our text tool over here and put in a small bit of text here. I'm going to reduce the font size here to about 18 pixels, and we'll also do the opacity to about 66%. And finally, we'll just center this over here. The first testimonial that we have here is from Traversy Media, from Brad. So I'm just going to put this in just below and make it bold so that we can see what he's been saying. We've got 2 more testimonials which I'm going to put in, and one is here from Web Dev Simplified. So I'm just going to copy over these 2 and we're going to reuse them as we need. So let's just paste them here and here. Let's also move them up a little bit just so that they all align about 15 to 20 pixels from the top. And let's copy over this content over here. So that's nice. I've got a little bit too much text there, so I'm going to reduce that just a tad. And let's put in Web Dev Simplified in here. And for our last, we've got a guy here called DevEd. And DevEd also had some nice things to say, so we'll paste that in here. And that should be it for our testimonials. And finally, we've got our sitemap here. Now this doesn't change too much. I'm just gonna make this that same dark color that we were using here in our header content. And we're gonna copy over our logo that we had and replace the one over here with this one over here. Great. I don't really have a phone or email just yet, but the rest of our content is still mostly the same. So I'm just gonna copy it across and move it up a little bit just so that it fits in nicely. So there it is. And I think that's about it. We don't really have to change our footer here with this copyright. And this finishes up our design. Now that the desktop version is done,